Hello everyone, welcome back. So we're about to kick off things in here, and we've got a great session to start here. So agency by agency has analysed over 25,000 advertising, creative, marketing and media agencies based in the UK in a first of a kind set of reports. So here to give an overview of UK's agency landscape and 4 key trends from the reports, please welcome Tom Salmon, co-founder of Agency Agency, to the stage.
Good morning. I'm Tom from Agency by Agency. We provide intelligence into the agency sector, so we work with agency owners and media brands to help them understand agencies and help them find agencies. Super to be here today. There is an energy, I think, about the northern agency scene at the moment. This morning might feel, in the next 15 minutes, like I'm kind of an advocate for everything northern, and that's probably because I am. So you won't hear a word today. I'm going to say it once and hopefully not again. I'm going to say the regions. Okay, this is a language that we're going to kind of ban in the next 15 minutes. So we'll come on to it. We've mapped over 25,000 agencies in the UK. We've actually mapped over 31,000, but there's 25,000 active agencies in the UK at the moment. So we've recorded them, we've analysed them, we can tell what they're doing, we can tell which parts of the sector are growing, what the new kind of cool kids on the block are doing compared to those agencies that may be kind of a bit longer in the tooth. And there's some really interesting things that jump out. The first thing that jumps out is that the agency sector looks different depending on where you're stood. And there are some really, really cool things happening in the north that make us a little bit different to other parts of the UK. Spend time in London, the agency scene looks one way. Spend time in Newcastle, in Hull, in Liverpool, in Manchester, Leeds. I'm not going to name every northern city. It looks quite different. So today we're drawing on our data to look at 4 different things. We're going to look at what makes the north a little bit different. We're going to look at what's driving growth and what has been have always kind of driven growth in the north. We're going to look at what the investors kind of see when it comes to kind of venture capital and those kind of trends going on. And then you can set your alarms. It's happened already. AI, we're going to touch on as well. I promise not to dwell on that because that'll probably be something that people are a little bit fed up of hearing about. So what makes the north a little bit different? So this is a map of the UK. And what we're going to look at here, we're going to zoom in. Every single one of those pink dots is a different agency. So London lights up like a Christmas tree down there, and we start kind of travelling north. You can see this kind of band of agencies following the motorways, see a hotspot around kind of Newcastle. We go further up into Scotland, and we go all the way up here into the Shetland Isles. You can't quite see them, but there are pink dots up there. So if you need an agency in the Shetland Islands, they exist. And so you can start seeing the distribution of agencies around the country. The north is home to 25% of all agencies in the UK. London accounts for about 38%. So a big part of this kind of sector is actually based up here in the north. Just checking I didn't use the word region on this, that's good. So 38% in London, 37% in other parts of the UK. So 25% of agencies are in the north. They account for 14% of all the turnover going on in the sector. So 25% of the agencies, 14% of the turnover. So agencies in the north tend to be smaller, tend to be more boutique, and tend to be more specialised. And we'll come on to that in a bit more detail now. And those 25% of agencies have got 16% of the total agency workforce in the UK. So they look a little bit different to agencies, certainly in London. And we specialise in a few different things in the north. So what we're going to look at here, at the top of this page, we're going to see things that we do pretty well in the north of the UK. And then we're going to see things that we do okay, but there are other parts of the country kind of doing a bit more of it than we are here. So you can start to see that 34% of the whole of the UK's conversion agencies are based in the north. 31% of all performance agencies in the UK based in the north. 29% of digital, 28% of all e-com agencies, 27% of all social, and 26% of digital product design agencies are based in the north. So 24% of all agencies, but these kind of a higher proportion here in the north of the UK. We've got fewer agencies compared to other parts of the country when it comes to media, when it comes to influencer. Both of those really kind of concentrated in the southeast and London. And although it's kind of growing, we've got a lower proportion relative to other parts of the country specialising in Amazon and kind of marketplace. And I think this paints a really, really interesting picture about what's happening up here. And we're going to come on to this in a minute, because these things mean that agencies in the north have actually been able to capitalise on opportunities that other parts of the country haven't necessarily been able to do. So our specialisms here in the north are actually a really, really big reason that things are kind of growing for many agencies, not all agencies. Across the UK, on average, agencies are growing 8% a year. So we measure growth in agencies according to turnover growth and in terms of headcount growth. So the average turnover growth rate in the UK is 8%. There are obviously agencies growing a lot faster than that, and there are agencies kind of shrinking as well. But on average, we arrive at this figure of 8% across the 25,000 agencies that we've mapped. In the north, there's a 1 point difference. Don't know if that's kind of statistically valid to say that northern agencies are growing faster than anyone else, but we'll take it for the purposes of gathering here in Manchester. So you start to see, well, there's a really, really kind of healthy section of the agency community happening up here. So why is that? We hear stories all the time, think about how challenging it is for agencies out there, and it is. But actually, despite those stories, we're seeing growth. And then there are some reasons for that here in the north. So this is something that Dan Taylor, Google's VP of Global Ads, said the other day. I don't find myself on X as often as I used to. But he said this. Ad budgets are following a user spend their time and marketers see results. So that's going into connected TV, retail media, and those kind of places. This was published actually in the Media Leader, I think, last week. And you can see budgets moving into search, into video, into display. Now, if you remember those specialisms that we saw on the earlier slide, they're all kind of areas where agencies in the north have got really, really, really great capabilities. There's some fantastic talent up here. So actually agencies in the north, I think, have been really, really well placed to serve those kind of categories that have been growing in terms of where media investments are going. And I think that's a really important thing for us to kind of be aware of as people and leaders in the media industry, because it's quite simple in a way. You know, there's lots of noise in our sector, there's lots of stories, but that point that Dan makes there around kind of just follow where the customers are, follow where the eyeballs are, I think it's a really, really important kind of simple truth about what we all do. And I've got a theory about how this all connects. I don't know if there are any kind of social historians in the room or not. I'm kind of hoping not. That's good. So I've got a theory about why, when you map these kind of agencies, you see the M62 corridor kind of lighting up from Hull all the way to Liverpool. And I think it's to do with mills. Okay, so the North had this great kind of textile industry in the Industrial Revolution. The textile industry gave birth to catalogue retail, you know, kind of buying your suits, buying your dresses and things like that through the mail, which actually was the kind of the nascent e-commerce of its day. So you start using data, you start to kind of do kind of direct marketing, you start using kind of data to make marketing decisions. And I think that's kind of been woven into the fabric of the North ever since, because you see more performance, more data-led, more digital businesses along that kind of stretch of the M62 than you do in other parts of the country. And I think it's kind of woven into our history a little bit. So one of the reasons that we created Agency by Agency was to be able to look at these patterns, to be able to help agencies identify where there are opportunities to kind of differentiate themselves, where to maybe kind of locate in terms of where the talent is, and help people who want to work with agencies to actually find really kind of niche players that can help them. So the kind of geography does matter from this point of view. Moving on a little bit to our third theme, so the money. I think in life, in kind of critical thinking about what the hell's going on in the world, It's a good rule of thumb, which is follow where the money kind of comes from, all this kind of stuff. So we looked at where investors are placing their bets. So this is investors from a point of view of venture capital. So this doesn't include kind of loans or direct to kind of funding for businesses. And we can see that investors are backing in the sector that we're in, the agency sector, those tech-enabled disciplines. So what we're going to show you here, these are 29 of our different sectors that we've got mapped in the agency market. And what we're going to start seeing is the amount of investment that's going into them. So you've got some kind of ones down here around like brand strategy, for example, kind of barely registers. But at the top, this is where the investors are kind of seeing the opportunity in the market. They're particularly backing digital product design businesses, so people developing rapid prototypes for their clients. A lot of kind of dev houses are kind of spinning out into kind of the AI and kind of rapid prototyping world. Digital continues to kind of get that investment coming in. Social media, so I think there's an element here of investors kind of following the money in terms of where the eyeballs are at in terms of the media too. But I think for agencies, this matters. If you're interested in kind of VC as a route for the future, you kind of need to be in these spaces to attract that kind of investment. That's the picture for the UK as a whole. When we start looking at the north of the UK and we start looking at where the money's kind of coming in, we can start seeing an investment gap. And what we mean by that is we're looking here at, again, sort of venture capital money coming in. So despite having 25% of all agencies in the UK, 14% of the workforce, agencies in the north are only attracting 8% of the total investment being made. And there'll be loads of reasons for this. One might be a knowledge gap. Two might be kind of where investors are actually based in the UK. There's loads of kind of things that I think we need to unpack from this. I think in terms of if there are any kind of policy people in the room, the connection between media agencies and the investor community is something for us to tackle, I think. The picture bodes a little bit better when we look at funding from Innovate UK. So Innovate UK being the government's innovation arm. So actually here you can argue that agencies in the north are innovating and actually punching above their weight a little bit. So despite only having 14% of the workforce, we're attracting 16% of all the Innovate UK kind of grants. So we're seeing kind of sector specialism and we're seeing real kind of innovation happening and actually a decent amount of support from the UK government there. I think there's more that could be done, but it's not a bad picture. Okay, so we're going to move on to AI. You can fill that in your bingo card today. So we did a piece of analysis. We hold web text for every single agency in our data, so we can do some really cool analysis of how agencies are describing themselves and which part of the sector are growing and which parts are kind of like standing out. And we looked at how agencies were talking about AI. And actually what we found is that only 23% of those 25,000 agencies mention AI at all on their website. We don't include blogs and things like that, but in terms of the propositional pages, only 23% of all agencies are talking about AI, which I think is kind of interesting, right? Because it's kind of everywhere. And we know from research that Forrester have done that 75% of agencies that they surveyed have got in-house generative AI models. So you've got 75% of agencies using it, but only 23% or so talking about it. So you've got this kind of gap going on. And I think it speaks to how agencies are maybe kind of nervous about what's going on out there. If we admit that we're using AI, does that mean clients come to us and say, well, that's great, can I have it quicker and cheaper, please? Which obviously could be problematic for people. But we're seeing more and more agencies actually kind of navigate their way around this. IPG is obviously a kind of a big example here, but there are smaller agencies doing the same thing where they're looking at this not in terms of kind of the existential threat that AI might pose to their business, but actually are there other opportunities that AI presents here? So Philippe Krakowski from IPG said this: they've now got an avenue to actually generate kind of repeat revenue from software, as well as selling the kind of the time and resources, time and materials type model. It feels to me that the threat from AI is in agencies who are still reliant on time and materials in terms of their billing model. I think that is probably one of the big threats out there. So those agencies, I think, are kind of caught in this world where do they use AI to become more efficient, cheaper, faster, or actually is there an opportunity for agencies now to reposition themselves and think about how they help their clients navigate this world of AI and how customers are using AI? And I think if there's one takeaway from me about what we're seeing in terms of agencies talking about AI, it's this. Those people who are winning in this world are actually helping their clients make sense of what's going on, both for their businesses and for their clients' businesses. So it's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour through the North UK and some adjacent kind of topics. Summing up, I think there's an opportunity to build on and capitalise on the strengths that we've got, the specialisms that we've got up here. There's a rule: follow the consumer, follow the eyeballs. There'll be loads of information later on today about where all those trends are heading. Let's get more investment in the North. Let's actually attract kind of media owners up here. Let's attract the investment up here. Let's have more events like this up here. And when it comes to AI, don't panic. It'll probably be okay. All these slides and everything are available on there. There's a link to a place where you can be able to download it all. But yeah, thank you very much.